Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. I haven't filmed a video in a while. Every video you've been watching this month has been pre-recorded in different months throughout the year, and here we are to talk about my best and worst books of 2020. I will say that this year wasn't like a super great standout book year. Like there was nothing that I was like, oh my God, I need to make everybody read this book. But I did definitely have some duds and I did have some new favorites. So I want to go ahead and do what I do every single year, and that is start with my top 10 worst books of 2020. Coming in at number 10, I have The Immortalists by Chloe Benjamin. I read this like towards the beginning of the year, and there were parts of it that were absolutely magical, but there were other parts that just seemed to drag on forever. And despite the subject matter and what happens at the end of every single part, I wasn't in love with the characters how I thought I would be. It wasn't an emotional read for me because I never truly connected to the characters. There was one of the siblings that really, their story just drug on and on and on, and I just wanted it to be over, and that was a majority of the book. So yeah, not a favorite. Coming in at number 9 is The Snow Child by Ewan Ivy. I'm not really sure how to say that author's name, but this is another like wintry type read that is following Jack and Mabel. They live in Alaska in 1920. They own a farm, and it's kind of like a homestead situation. It's not like modern day Alaska where everybody has neighbors, but yeah, everything is spread like far and wide, and you have to like take a horse and buggy like miles and miles to get like to a store or a neighbor's or anything like that. And they're just really struggling. It's like a cold, bleak winter, so of course that's like unfortunate. They didn't have a great yield on their crops, so Jack is really working hard to make like the next year better. And the wife is just like really sad and lonely, and they're not able to have a child. And one night they build a snow child out of snow, like a snowman, but it's a snow child. And the next morning when they wake up, the snow child has melted, but they see a little girl running through the woods. And it's kind of, you know, you're trying to figure out like, is it a magical realism story? But I just thought the writing was really slow paced. It felt like nothing really happened, and it felt like a lot of the scenes were just repeated and repeated and repeated. Like they're sad, they're lonely, nothing is going on. And it was quite a large book, so for as long as it was, it didn't really like give me enough plot. And the only thing you really felt while reading this was like the despair and kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of like a sad type book. And at number 8 is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and I read this like a couple months ago. When did it come out? July? So was it like, I don't know. Basically, I really enjoyed certain parts of the story, but I didn't enjoy the main part of the story. I really liked the gothic horror atmosphere, the eerie, unsettling vibes. I loved like, it almost felt like fall, and I really liked that. I liked the mist. And I actually did really like the characters as well, but the main plot that was going on, didn't really love that. Loved the beginning part of it, but then like when you find out like the reveal and what's going on and stuff like that, it was just so cheesy to me, and I've seen that done before in like movies and other books, so it was just, I didn't really care for it, so that's why it's on my worst list. But I'll definitely pick up more from this author in the future because I did like the writing and I did like the atmosphere. Coming in at number 7 is a book I no longer have a copy of, and that is Head Over Heels by Hannah Ornstein. And this was kind of like supposed to be that Olympic hopeful story like during the Summer Olympics, but of course the Summer Olympics didn't happen. And it had a lot of gymnastic like moves and vernacular and, you know, lingo in it that of course if you're not an Olympic athlete, like you're not going to get, or even like a gymnast really. So we follow a previous Olympic hopeful as she gets injured and she's no longer able to compete, and she returns to her hometown after her and her boyfriend split, and she's working at the gym that she kind of grew up in and learned her craft in, and there's like a little romance, but it's also about training this new up-and-coming Olympic hopeful. It also does touch on that things that happen in the real gymnastics team with the doctor and stuff like that, and it tries to tackle topics like that, but I just thought the writing was very basic and very boring, and like I wasn't caring enough, you know what I'm saying? And so for such an important topic, you really need to care about the characters and the plot and all of that, and it just missed the mark. Number 6 on this list is another book I don't have a copy of anymore, and that is Survivor Song by Paul Tremblay. I read this earlier in the year. I did an entire spoiler vlog about it. It just wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. It wasn't the zombie apocalypse story that I thought it was gonna be. It's a story about a virus, and this virus is kind of like rabies, but it takes a hold much faster, and the incubation period is much shorter, and when you get it, like within an hour or less, you start, you know, like biting other people and infecting them, and it's just like running rampant. And I thought it was going to be more like the zombie type, you know, situation, but it was really like two friends. One was infected at the beginning of the novel, and the other one is trying to save her. And I don't know, I wasn't really invested. I thought it was overly described, but it didn't focus on describing what I wanted it to describe. So yeah, it just missed the mark. Coming in at number 5, I'm sure you're not going to be surprised to see this on my worst books of 2020, and that is The Two Lives of Lydia Bird. I was super excited about this because I loved her debut novel, but this one was just not it. It was so boring. I know so many people that ended up DNFing it, and that's what I should have done, but I was holding out hope because it was one of my most anticipated books of the year. This talks about Lydia and Freddie, and they are, you know, the perfect couple. But on Lydia's 28th birthday, Freddie is going to her party, and he gets in a car accident and dies. And so, of course, Lydia is grieving, and she's having a rough go at it. She gets some medicine prescribed by her doctor to help her sleep, and her life kind of splits. So she has this like there's these asleep chapters and awake chapters. And awake, of course, like Freddie is dead and she's grieving and moving on with her life. And then in these asleep chapters where she's taking this medication, it's kind of like this drug-induced dream. Freddie's still alive. So you're getting to live in the awake chapters and see what happens with her life, and these asleep chapters and see what happens with her life. And there's good and bad things that happen in both the asleep chapters and the awake chapters. But I mean, at the end of the day, those are only happening when she's asleep. And it's kind of, I don't know, like I just didn't even know what to think about it, you know. I ended up rating that one 2 stars, and I was just really, really disappointed. Number 4 is The Dilemma by B.A. Paris. And this is another one that I was really looking forward to. But when a book is about a 40th birthday party of this grown woman, and this husband and wife have secrets from each other that aren't these little like secrets, they're like huge earth-shattering things that you should not be keeping from your spouse no matter what. And so the husband's secret, you find out very early on, and he's not telling her something because he wants her to have a good birthday. But I can tell you, if my husband was keeping that secret from me, I would be very pissed off. And then the wife's, Livy's, or is her name Liv? Anyway, Liv's, her secret happened a little while ago, but you don't find out until much later into the book, like what actually is going on. And it's still something that you shouldn't keep from your husband, and it's just really weird and really boring, and there was no like thrilling elements, there was no like romance. It just was all about this 40th birthday party and how these two people are keeping this secret from each other that they shouldn't really even be keeping. So it definitely missed the mark. Next up is Bunny by Mona Awad. You guys know I did not enjoy this. It was a really strange book, and the author made some very interesting choices. I will definitely read books by this author in the future because I loved the writing and the word choices, and it just was like making very smart literary like choices as far as like words go. So I did like the writing, but the story and the characters were a no. So you have this one girl, I think her name's Samantha, and there's this other group of girls that's in the same writing course that she is, and they are like this little cultish clique, and they call each other Bunny. And Samantha's always kind of like looked down on them, like her and her friend have always looked down on them, but then they invite her to go to their smut salon, and this like weird scientific sci-fi strange things start happening. And what really like pissed me off and made me like hate this book is there was one part of the story that, even though I wasn't really enjoying myself per se, or I wasn't like agreeing with the direction that the story was taking, I was still really happy about this one thing. And then that one thing got ruined for me, and I was just like, forget it, I hate this book. So it's probably more like a 2-star, but I ended up going with 1 star because I was just like upset when I finished reading it. Number 2 on this list is Normal People by Sally Rooney, and I cannot explain how, like, when I say nothing happened, nothing happened. So this is I don't even know what to categorize this, a contemporary story about 2 people that are magnetically drawn to each other over and over and over again, but they kind of run in different circles. Like the girl is kind of like the homely, nobody finds her attractive, she's never dated anybody in her life, like unpopular. And then you have the guy who's like super popular, or maybe it's reversed. I think I had it right though. Anyway, they go to the same school. I think they live like they're neighbors or something like that, or they live close to each other. Anyway, they kind of come together. Oh my gosh, it's a romance. It's going to be so cute, but they never get together. And then they kind of go off and live their lives for a little bit. And then they come back together and oh my God, it's going to be so cute, but they don't get together. And it's just this over and over and over again. So like they never have the connection that you want them to. And then like they always end up apart, and I don't know, like it just I don't understand. Can someone please explain to me why they love this book so much, if you do, because I don't get it. I don't get it. And I never thought I would be saying this, but my number 1 worst book of 2020 was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And I know you guys are probably going to come for me in the comments and say how amazing this book was, but we're all entitled to our own opinions, and I hated this book, you guys. Nothing happens, just like in Normal People, like literally nothing happens, and it takes place over 300 years, and the writing is so overdone and heavy-handed, and it's so wordy, and like the font is small, so it took forever to read this. I did talk about this in like a reading vlog, and I just so basically the main character makes a deal that says I want to live forever, you know, but because of that, she ends up not being remembered by anybody. And yeah, it's just about that experience. And I just can't. So nothing happens in the plot. I wasn't attached to the characters. And I think what people liked about the story, I don't want to like spoil anything, but like there is like kind of like 2 relationships that happen in here. I wasn't going for the relationship that everybody else was going for. I was going for the other one. So it didn't really work out how I wanted it to. So yeah, this is my worst book of 2020, you guys. Now let's jump into a happier topic, and that is my favorite books of 2020. So the best of 2020. I did pull a few honorable mentions because even though like all of the books on my list for the best of the best got 5 stars, I had some 4 stars that I still really enjoyed, and I wanted to share them with you. So for honorable mentions, The Stillhouse Lake by Rachel Caine. Really loved this. It's about a wife and her 2 children as they escape kind of like the media attention and stuff like that after she finds out that her husband is a serial killer. So they go off and run off to this lake, and yeah, it's just really creepy and ominous. I also really enjoyed The Night Swim by Megan Golden. This is one that I think I was just too harsh when I actually rated it, because when I look back at it, like I'm really fond of this book and I really liked it. I love the podcast elements, and it definitely did tackle some hard topics, but yeah, I really loved it. And then the last one is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, which I also rated 4 stars because it did have a couple of plot holes, and I've talked to a couple people about it and they're like, yeah, but I mean, those stuck out to me. I was like, are you, no, you're not kidding me like that at the end. Like that was just such an easy out. But I really liked how it had like the father's book parts and then like her in present day, like, you know, in the house and stuff like that. So yeah, so these 3 books definitely stuck out to me this year, but they weren't on my best of the best. All right, so just like I did my worst books, I'm gonna do my best books in reverse order as well. So we're gonna start at number 10, which was definitely a favorite, and then we're gonna end up with number 1, my favorite book of 2020. So starting off at number 10, Layla by Colleen Hoover on this list, which is crazy because I just read it this month and it was so interesting. The whole time I had no idea what was happening and I was trying to piece it together, and I don't know, like it was just so interesting and so different for Colleen Hoover. It definitely is like a romance story, but it's also a paranormal romance story, and just trying to figure out like what is actually happening in the story the whole time was just like so weird and so crazy. And it's not until the end that you really like start figuring out what is happening. And then just like the ending, it was just like so emotional, and like everything that was building up to it was just like so great. So good, you guys. So yeah, I had to put this at number 10. Coming in at number 9 is a book I read in January, and that is a YA story, The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. I loved this one so much. The world is kind of like The Giver by Lois Lowry, and when they go away on the grace year, it's kind of like The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. So if you like The Giver, if you like The Hunger Games, and you haven't read The Grace Year, I highly recommend it. This one is set in this world where when girls turn 16 years old, they inherit a like power that makes men go crazy. And so this community sends these girls off from the time they are 16 until they are 17 out into the wild so that they could have their grace year. And so the girls are out there, there's a whole bunch of them that go out there, and then when they get out there, strange weird things start happening, and it's just really good. Coming in at number 8 is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This is a book that is kind of a whodunit. It's like a classic whodunit. There is a wedding on an island off the coast of Ireland, and all of these guests come and they're celebrating the wedding, like kind of like the pre-party and the wedding day, and there's this 6 different perspectives and you're reading from all of them, and there's been an accident and you don't know what the accident is, what happened, who done it, what went down, and you're just trying to like piece it all together. So really cool story. Coming in at number 7 is The Bromance Book Club by Lyssa Kate Adams. This was so funny, different, cute. Like I just loved this story. I like that it was told like from a guy's perspective and it being a rom-com, and how he was really working to make his relationship work, and how he was the guy that was trying to save his marriage. And I just loved the Bromance Book Club guys, and I loved how he would use specific things from like romance novels to like incorporate that into his marriage and try to make it work. I don't know, it was just so cute. And I have the next 2 books in the series finally, and I can't wait to read them. Coming in at number 6 is A Beach Read by Emily Henry, and this is a book that I actually tried and temporarily DNF'd, and then I went back and tried it again, and I just really loved it. This is about January and Augustus, and they're both writers. One writes more literary fiction, the other one writes romance, and they are spending the summer at like this beach house, and they're neighbors, and they're both having writer's block, so they kind of agree to like switch genres and like, I don't know, but they're kind of nemesis from college, or nemesis from college, and it's just kind of like witty, and there's banter. But I also like how they're dealing with their own issues, and they're not bringing that into like the, like, they're not having each other be the solution to the problem. They're dealing with their own problems by themselves, and I don't know, I just really liked it. Coming in at number 5, and you guys might be surprised that this isn't higher up on my list, but I absolutely loved this story. I binged it so hard. It's definitely one of my favorites of all time, and that is One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. I have been a proud supporter and recommender of this book all year since I read it. Like I said, I binged it so hard. It has so many dog ears and underlines in here, and this is just the plus size representation rom-com story that I personally needed in my life. And it is about our main character B, and she is a plus size fashion blogger, and she gets a chance to be the main person, like the Bachelorette, on this show called The Main Squeeze, and she is just, yeah, basically in The Bachelorette. Like, these guys are vying for her attention and her love, and I just love the commentary part of it. But I've talked about this book a lot, so I'm not going to talk too much more about it, but I loved it. And at number 4 is The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. Guys, this book is historical fiction. Like, who would think that I would like a historical fiction novel? But it also has like family, so it's kind of like contemporary, even though it is technically historical fiction. But you have this woman whose husband died in like the Vietnam War, but she's pregnant, and it's the 1970s, and her unborn child has a heart defect. And her brother-in-law says, hey, I'm from the future, and I can send you to the future to have this experimental surgery in utero that will help your baby, possibly, maybe. And she's like, are you crazy? And yeah, it's just all about that journey and sacrifices, and, you know, your unborn child, but also like family. And it's so crazy because the part that I thought it was going to tackle in the book was like this, and then you have all of this, and it's just, oh, guys, just trust me. Even if you don't like historical fiction, but you like romance, contemporary, there's like thrilling elements in here. It's just so much better than you could like ever realize. So if you haven't read this book, highly recommend. And I want to thank Jacqueline for telling me to read this book, because that's why I read this book, because it was one of her favorites. So love that one. Coming in at number 3, who would have predicted this? Definitely not me. And that is The Plot is Murder by V.M. Burns. Oh my gosh, you guys, I can't tell you how much I loved the story within a story. It's a cozy mystery. It's my first cozy mystery. And I also have the second and the third book in this series that I'm going to be continuing in the new year, and I am so excited. Yeah, this was just, I don't know, there was just something about it. I think it was really like the characters, but it also had a really good plot. And yeah, it just, her Nana Jo and her friends were the highlight of my life. And also there's like murders and mystery, and yeah, it's just so good. Definitely pick it up if you like mysteries, and if you like cozy mysteries, even better. But I just absolutely adore this book, and I have read the second one. The second one wasn't as good. And so in this story you have a main storyline, and then the main character Samantha is writing, is that her name? Yeah, Samantha Washington is writing a book as well, or a story. And in this one, I really, really liked the story that she was writing. And the second one, loved, 5 out of 5 stars, the main storyline, but the second one was less. Like, I didn't like that storyline as much. So, highly recommend. Love it. I rated it 4 stars, the second book. So, yeah. My number 2, my second favorite book of the year, is The Saturday Night Ghost Club by Craig Davidson, also known as Nick Cutter. Who would have thunk it? But yeah, this story, I never heard anybody talk about it, like ever, ever, ever. But I like, it's so weird. It's like one of those books that once I read it and talked about it, I felt like everybody was talking about this book. But if you haven't read it and you like kind of coming of age, urban legends type stories with like that pack a punch, a little bit more emotional, highly recommend this. You definitely do not have to wait until like October time to read it, but that's when I read it. And it's about family, it's about friendship, it's about, you know, urban legends and, you know, stuff like that. It's just, it's so good and so unexpected, and it's short, you guys. It's a little thing, and I definitely want to read it again. So yeah, so hopefully I can find some time to put it in my TBR for 2021, because I just really, really liked it. 1880s Niagara Falls. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's such a good book, you guys. I loved it. Are we ready? I don't know if I'm ready, guys. Oh my god. Okay, so my favorite book of the year, which I'm surprised because I don't know, I knew I was gonna like this book, but I didn't know I was gonna love it as much as I did. Like, I didn't realize that this was gonna be my favorite book of the year. Are you ready? Oh my gosh. This was a pretty recent read too. All right, I want to show you guys. Are you ready? Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. Guys, this book was so cute, funny, romantic, like angsty, frustrating, like, I don't know, this book was everything. So I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Like, it seemed like I read it before anybody else on BookTube was talking about it, and I absolutely loved it. The steamy moments, and just between Chloe and Red, I was here for it. And it's over there on my bookshelf. I just love it so, so, so much. And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna love the second. Like, I'm not gonna love these characters as much as I love like Chloe and Red. I was wrong, you guys. Dani and Zaf are everything, and like, oh, it's just so freaking cute. I love how she's able, the author, Talia Hibbert, I love how Hibbert is able to combine like rom-com with like funny and like serious too. So it's not just romantic, it's not just funny, but it's also like there's serious things in here, and it's all tackled and handled like so expertly. Like, I just adored this so much. I also like that characters from the previous book pop up in here. I can't wait for the third book to come out in 2021. You better believe I'm going to be reading that sooner rather than later, like I did this one, because I just can't. I'm like nervous at the same time, because I'm like, I loved both of these books, Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and this one so much. I have such high hopes for the next one, but this was just such a fun time. I adored it so much. So my favorite book of 2020 is Take a Hint, Dani Brown. And yeah, that wraps up my best and worst of 2020. Let me know if there were any shockers on this list for you, whether it was my ranking, whether it was the book that I chose, or anything like that. But just remember, we're all entitled to our own opinions. What you think is fine, what I think is fine. This is all for fun. But I just want to say thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you're having a lovely day or night, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye!